LGBTQIA is an actual identifier, how somebody may identify themselves as, rather than us saying they're just queer. Right?
I get it.
That makes sense, yeah. And again, it's people over definition, so someone might prefer to say, okay, I'm a lesbian. And someone else might say, I'm queer. You don't need to know the details, and I don't feel like sharing it with you. It can be used in that way also. I'm comfortable sharing that I am not straight cisgender, and that's enough for me. So everybody has different reasons why they use it. But queer is kind of an umbrella term that anything that's not straight
That's the reason
cisgender.
that there's been more initials added,
Yeah.
right? Because people identify certain things.
Right.
You put words to it. Yeah, exactly.
That's
yeah.
probably why they have the plus.
Exactly.
Just in case next week.
Yeah, exactly. Language is, gosh, always evolving. And we talked about that. An example of that is queer is used as an insult. It's a pretty popular insult. And it's been, as we just read it, over the last 40-ish years has been reclaimed and said, no, we're taking that back. It's not an insult. We're going to use it to describe ourselves. Cool. Okay. Any other questions about that one, about Q? All right. Let's take a look at 8, page 8. Asexuality. Ace and arrow, yes, spectrums. So, would someone read the headings and the descriptions, the terms for asexual and aromantic at the top of the page? Great.
Asexual is a sexual orientation characterized by a lack of sexual attraction toward any gender. Ace is short for asexual, just like bi is short for bisexual, and trans is short for transgender. Aromantic, ARO, is an orientation characterized by a lack of romantic attraction toward any gender. Aro is short for aromantic.
Okay. Okay, so let's see here. All right, so this is ace is, or asexual is you are not attracted to any gender. There's a little bit of caveats with that. We'll talk about that in just a moment.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know this is a gross oversimplification, but if you are a straight man and you take out a magazine and it says, the top 50 sexiest women of 2021, you go, I agree. These are the top 50 sexiest women of 2021. And if you are a lesbian woman, you say, yep, I agree. If you are a gay man and it says the top 50 sexiest men of 2021, and you go, okay, yeah, I agree. I'm also attracted to these men. Or if you are a straight woman and you say, yeah, I agree. These are attractive men. Someone who is asexual looks at it and says, nope. Looks at the top 50 sexiest men and says, nah, none of these are doing it for me. And then looks at the top 50 sexiest women and says, no, none of these are doing it for me. I'm not feeling it.
Who cares?
That's that?
Who cares?
Yeah, right, yeah, it's like, yeah, who cares? What's on TV? What's for dinner? Right? So that's one way of thinking about that. There's little caveats. We go down to that the other set of definitions. Gray A, demisexual, demiromantic. Gray A is considered a middle gray area between asexuality and sexuality on the sexual spectrum, and between aromantic and romantic on the romantic spectrum. Demisexual and demiromantics identities fall underneath this gray A identity. Demisexual people can experience sexual attraction after an emotional connection has formed. Demiromantic people can experience romantic attraction after a close emotional connection has formed. So, with this saying again, it's not always so easy to say like, am I asexual? Yes. No. Done. People's experiences don't line up that neat. So for folks who identify as demisexual, they may feel sexual attraction toward another person, but only after an emotional bond is made, only after you're close with them. So they may look at the, top 50 sexiest men in America or whatever and say, no. But they meet someone and they find them funny and they get to know each other over the course of months, and they find they have the same taste in movies and the same passion for their work, and all of a sudden they build this emotional connection. Then that person can say, oh, I do find you attractive. So like that's a whole other experience. So does that make sense? Are there any questions about that?
But these people aren't persecuted. They're not, does anybody point fingers and says, hey, he's asexual?
I have heard that used as an insult for people. Like I remember in high school, people who didn't seem to express an interest in dating or whatnot would be like, not, oh, you're asexual, but oh, are you one, queer would come up as one, and then the other is just, oh, you just don't care. We didn't have that language, I think, back then when I was in high school, but I have heard it used as an insult, that idea. And again, I think it's more, we're talking about trying to understand people's experiences, trying to welcome people, which I think goes beyond not persecuting or not oppressing. So there's a good book. I'm a big reader. I got books coming out of my ears, book recommendations coming out of my ears. There's one called Ace that I read this past summer, I want to say, almost a year ago now, gosh. And does a really good job of talking about her experience as someone who is ace, what have been her struggles throughout life, kind of coming to terms with that, the way people have written her off, and the way friendships and relationships and family relations have been strained through that. Even some things that experience has been discounted in television. There was an episode of House, apparently. I'm not a House watcher, I was never into it, but there was an episode where someone came in and said, oh, I'm asexual, and House in his, rough around the edges way says, oh, no, if we just got her a couple glasses of wine and some candles, and she would change her mind, or it's something along, but just completely dismissive of that experience. Of some people are like, no, I'm just not. It doesn't mean I'm broken or I just need a glass of wine. It's just, this is who I am. So anyway, yeah, worrying, and that's the whole thing too. I would say too is while we were talking about hospitable curiosity and lurid curiosity. One way that is I feel like a safer way to do that, rather than just talking to people because they might not want to talk about their experience, especially when you're like, is this lurid or not? Read books. Because the people who've written those books have decided, I do want to share my personal experience. I am willing to share this hurt that I've gone through or whatever it is, and wrote it out so that people could be educated and learn more about other experiences. Yeah, he's really good. I forget the author's name offhand, but if you go to this is a whole other thing too, if you go to our website, stjohnsmayfair.org/RIC, you've got, I always post stuff for events like this, but I've also put different resources that we've referenced throughout our time, like in our Bible study. Once this is here, the recording will go up there. I put book recommendations that have come up and things like that, even a couple podcast episodes. So whatever your flavor is for learning things, you like to listen, you like to read, whatever it is. So that's all there. Any questions about anything on the asexuality page? Okay, cool. We are nearing the end of our time. Flags. Question about flags. I mean, I don't have much to say about it other than these are all the flags. Somebody's designed these and said, "Yep, this is the flag."
there a certain flag that you would like trust?
Yeah, so I think it depends on, alright, so one thing, if the we,
Just the basic rainbow.
Yeah.
if the we in that question is us as a congregation, probably for us, because if we vote on this and we approve a welcome statement and everything else, and we become a reconciling Christ congregation, they have a symbol, and it is like, it's a rainbow heart, and it kind of like goes off to the side. Actually, let me see. It's gotta be here, right? No, it's not that one, because they have another one. I mean, I've seen that one, but it's just, well, that's funny. So in their publication, but anyway, so it's like a rainbow heart. It kind of fans out, and there's a cross in the middle, and so that's like sort of that symbol. So if that were the case, then that, we could put on our front sign, we could put it in our bulletin, we could put it in our newsletter, like anything that we print or advertise, say, yep. So and a reconciling in Christ congregation, and we could probably put something on our website that says, what is a reconciling in Christ congregation? A little thing, and here's our welcome statement and all the work. So for at home, it's like Pride Month is June, and you want to fly a Pride flag, my preference is the Philly Pride flag because we're Philly. So yeah.
That one I think has extra colors for the different people of color.
Yeah, I think that's why it's got that in there. And then the last thing, I think, and it was one of our questions from before on the back side, it says personal pronouns. And I'll be honest, I haven't seen they, zers, and zex, them, zers, the X and the Z ones. I haven't seen that much or if at all. So I can't really speak to why someone would choose that. So I'm not gonna talk out of my butt on that one and try and guess. But they, them, theirs, I have a few folks I know that use those pronouns, and it's because it's not gendered. It's not he or she. That's a limitation of our language. We don't have a singular they. We don't have a singular way of addressing a person without also attaching a gender to it, male or female. Very few languages do, which I think that's the idea. Again, I'm not totally sure, but I think that's why they and zir are there too, because it's like, okay, that can be a singular thing that doesn't necessarily say male or female, right? But that's why they is used, not because of the plural part of it, but because it's not, it's gender neutral.
My daughter uses they, them, or theirs.
Yeah.
She's married and has a kid,
Yeah.
a grandson, and she's a high school teacher.
Yeah. And it's not because your daughter is multiple people, she doesn't multiply.
Yeah.
It's just because that's the word that we have, that's the pronoun that we have that is gender neutral.
Right.
And it happens to be plural and we can't really get around it. Apparently in like Shakespearean English, we did have one, it was Don, which is just, I don't know, it sounds very grandiose, like Don is preaching today, and Don is, anyway.
I was just noticing that with the Z's and the X's, if you take the Z off, it's kind of like he, her, and hers. If you take the X off, it's like he, them, and theirs.
Interesting, okay. So, maybe that's it. Like, okay, it's sort of a parallel, but it's not gender. So that's like, yeah. And again, I don't know that well.
I took my niece to college, and that was kind of a thing there, I think. I'm wondering if that age person is using these terms. They had a big display of choose your pronoun, and that was
I mean, definitely true, I think. That's been my experience. Not that I've had a lot of experience, but yeah, you tend to see the younger generation using that Z and the X.
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about language is evolving, and we talked about queer earlier. If someone who is gay 50 years ago said, I'm queer, they'd be like, what did you just say? But language has evolved where, that's, it's been sort of reclaimed. And so maybe it's the same thing here, like different idea. Yeah.
Yeah, the last family dinner I went with my kids, my wife thought were cisgen, my son, who's kind of a macho guy, and his wife, right? They were using all these pronouns like very casually, like it's something they. I was really shocked.
Yeah, for themselves or for other people that they knew, or.
Well, nobody else was there. Just the four, the 6 of us. They were talking about these other people. And I guess that this is kind of like where, like, I guess, I don't have a problem with homosexuality. I mean, my aunt was homosexual when she really had to hide it in like the 30s.
Sure.
Right. The whole family knew it. The whole family accepted it. And she lived her life for another 40 days a child. They raised the child. So, I don't know. I understand that. I don't know. But I guess it's the pronoun things that is probably the least thing that I feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
Only because I feel like it's an imposition on me, especially this line here. If you make a mistake and someone corrects you, thank them for teaching you their personal pronouns. And, over the last couple of years, interacting with my daughter, who's younger than my son, who's in college and all that stuff, I was constantly being corrected about pronouns, and I didn't like it.
Yeah. It's tough and it's a learning curve. So for me, it's about how do you respect what people want in their lives and their identity. I think of a previous congregation that I was at. There was a woman there. Her grandchild came out as trans, and she was always mixing up, calling him by their previous name and using the previous pronouns and stuff like that. But like,
Dad's name.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's who I was, and that's not anymore.
Remember when Jesus was in with the Pharisees and things, and he's about to be crucified there, and they talked to him about being the king of the Jews, and he says that's what you said. But that my point is that like that we wouldn't call Jesus today the king of the Jews, would we? But and this is the pronoun, so we wouldn't call people by the pronoun that they don't want to be called by. We call them by the pronouns they want to be called by. Just like we should call Jesus by what Jesus wants to be called by.
Yeah, and I think
we're talking about like an established English language where we have like dictionaries and we have like studied,
But
education.
those dictionaries are changing, so they're not established in that way anymore.
yeah.
Go look at the Oxford English Dictionary, and you're going to find out a whole new.
Yeah, I remember when they added 8, and lots of people were upset about 8.
Yeah, language is evolving.
They also have "go" in there from Homer Simpson. So.
Yeah, Mary Alice, you had a question
We
or
didn't
comment?
grow up with it. That's why it's so difficult.
Right.
for us.
Yeah.
My sister went back into teaching after many years, and her students were constantly correcting her. So now if you go into a Zoom meeting with my sister there, her identifier also has she, her, and because she does it for solidarity for her students. And she always says to them, I'm going to mess it up. And I'm going to mess it up. Please don't be offended. Help me when I say it wrong. I just think it's, and even from the very beginning of this, I think it's wonderful that the people growing up now don't have to feel like they need to conform to what an identifier already is. So if that little he wants to play with dolls, or the little girl likes to play with the hand toys that look like drills and hammers and stuff so fluid. So today, maybe one thing, and tomorrow maybe something else, but if you come from a place with your heart, then those that you deal with, you'll know that you don't ever mean to insult teaching. Tell me what I need.
Yeah, and that's why I brought up the that story of the grandmother and her grandson who came out as trans, where she was so like embarrassed and she was frustrated, and this child, this teenager, had such grace about it. It was like, I know you're trying, Mom. Like, thanks for trying.
And at the seminary now, we all the time, when people start class, when our classes start, one of the questions always is what are your pronouns? What are your preference to pronouns? So whenever we do any of our introductions, that's part of the introduction, is what is your preference to your pronouns?
I know it's an aside, it's not totally, this isn't why this is advocating for it, but I appreciate it, even just knowing what honorific to use, like when I'm addressing someone in an email or something like that, because sometimes people will have a name that is like not clearly a Mr. or Ms.
Yeah.
And so it kind of clues me in if it says, you know, he, him, and I could say, dear Mr. So-and-so, because if you're Pat or you're some other Danny, is that short for Danielle or Daniel? I don't know. And so I appreciate that on just saving myself a little bit of embarrassment. Like, actually, it's Mr. Smith. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a Jamaican born, and in my country, when I was younger, we don't talk about gay. If anybody said they're gay, oh, you're contagious, you're gonna catch something. You know, you can't go for it, you can't eat from them. But my father's American born, and when I have a nephew that totally used to talk certain way, has movement, and the mother would beat him. So this is Jamaican talking about, because she wanted like none of that. But when I came here and I realized that you can't judge people for who they are. And then now that I had my grandson who's 3, and I see a lot of the different things in him. And his mother is freaking out because she born in Jamaica. And she kind of know about, not. And I said, whatever Roddy's choose, we're just going to stand inside him. My hairdresser that I had was the opposite sex. He was a male. And he would tell me a story about his relationship. And I love him. His name was Chapa. He was my best friend. I was in New York because I come from New York. I'm not from Philly. And he also opened my eyes that you can't judge people, you just have to get to know them.
Thank you.
So my country, don't talk about that. You're gonna get the cold.
Right.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Keep coming back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I got kids are driving me a little.
Yeah, no, it probably means that. Well, that's actually the end of our time. Again, further reading and things, take a look, stjohnsmayfair.org/RIC. If you're interested in books, podcasts, the podcasts are embedded right there. You can just hit play and listen. Some of the things that related to what we talked about today and in other conversations. Mark your calendar, May 17th. We are going to have our RIC forum. We've got a handful of folks already lined up to share, who are willing to share their experience and hear our questions and about this process as well. We'll be in the sanctuary. I think I had said that we would be in room A, but it is election day also, so go vote. And also don't come in here because the voting machines will be in here. Come to the sanctuary.
Are these going to be LGBTQ Christians?
Yes. Yeah, so I have, so far what we have confirmed, we have 2 gay men, a transgender woman and her wife, and they're all leaders in the church in various capacities. So,
Really?
yep.
Can you pray us out?
I would love to pray us out. You got it. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Merciful and gracious God, thank you for this time together. be willing to be awkward and out of our element, but to be willing to learn and to hear your call to welcome others as you have welcomed us. Help us through this process at St. John's. Ask that you guide it, that your spirit might be filled in it through every step of the way. And I ask that you would bless and protect every person that is here today as they go from this place into their next step of their lives for this day, and that you might help them be your light for the world. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
I think that's truly the bottom line too, since many of us aren't in this life.